Hi, welcome to Matka Medicine at matkamedicine.com. I am Bhavin Jankharia, a radiologist and physician in practice for the last 30 odd years. If you have any questions about what Matka and Matka Medicine mean, do check out my post or podcast titled Our Health Matkas, Understanding Them and Taking Control, published on 25th December 2020 at the site www.matkamedicine.com or wherever you have found this podcast. So today's topic or matka is about intermittent fasting. Fasting alone is more powerful in preventing and reversing some diseases than drugs. Dr. Sachin Panda from the Salk Institute in the US said this a few years ago in the context of a review article on the benefits of fasting. Imagine if fasting and exercise could both be combined into a polypill. We would live longer and healthier lives anywhere in the world at pretty much minimal to no cost. Fasting is an integral part of many religions. In Jainism, for example, there are many different forms of fasting, from the daily choviyar, which is eating only from sunrise to sunset, to the athai, which is 8 days of fasting during the festival of Paryushan, to more severe forms of fasting. Islam, as we all know, has 1 month of Ramadan, during which a large number of Muslims eat and drink nothing from dawn to dusk. In many forms of Hinduism, people fast during different days to appease multiple gods, and even monotheistic religions like Christianity and Judaism have their own forms of fasting. Since one tenet of any religion has always been to help people live longer and healthier, both in mind and body, it is likely that the health benefits of fasting were evident even in the olden days, despite the absence of the kind of scientific data we look for today. Intermittent fasting is a form of fasting and an umbrella term that incorporates conditions like alternate day fasting, the 5:2 method of fasting, in which we fast for 2 days a week and eat 5 days a week, and time restricted eating or TRE, where the eating window is restricted to 6 to 12 hours daily. I find TRE the simplest to implement. For example, I can skip breakfast, start lunch at 1 p.m., finish dinner by 9 p.m., and that gives me an 8 hours feeding or eating window with 16 hours of fasting. While we're still waiting for that one breakthrough trial that will conclusively establish intermittent fasting's scientific credentials, a large number of smaller preclinical and clinical studies have shown that any form of intermittent fasting has many proven and potential benefits. Doctors Rafael da Cabo and Mark Mattson from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine recently summarized the existing data on intermittent fasting in the New England Journal of Medicine. The paper explains the physiologic basis of fasting, why evolutionary science suggests that we do not really need 3 meals a day, and that restricted eating in any form helps not just with weight loss, which is unfortunately the primary objective of most people who take up fasting, but improves a host of metabolic parameters that help us live longer and better. Intermittent fasting and time restricted eating in particular help with the following, and the list includes longevity, reduced obesity, better exercise endurance, improved cognition, better insulin sensitivity and diabetes control, improved cardiovascular risk factors, extended survival in some cancers, probable reduction in the incidence of some cancers, probable reduction in the incidence and severity of Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's syndrome, probable reduction in symptoms and severity of asthma, multiple sclerosis, and arthritis, and probable acceleration of healing and reduction in tissue damage during surgery. One word of caution, though, when we look at studies comparing time restricted eating and intermittent fasting with other methods, we need to be a little careful and see how the TRE has been done. For example, one recent study by Dr. Dylan Lowe and his colleagues from UCSF found no difference between 8:16 TRE, that is 8 hours feeding, eating, and 16 hours fasting versus controlled 3 meals a day. But they allowed the TRE participants to eat ad libitum, which means they were allowed to eat any amount of food they wanted in the 8 hours feeding window. This makes no sense. While TRE does help with an automatic reduction in the calories consumed because the window of feeding or eating is small, that is not necessarily so. It is still possible to gorge on 3-4,000 calories in a window of 6 to 8 hours. And if all we eat are ultra processed foods or calorie dense items, it would defeat the very purpose of time restricted eating. How do we start implementing intermittent fasting and TRE? We can't ask our doctors. Unfortunately, most of them find it impossible to prescribe non pharmacologic interventions like fasting or physical activity that don't involve a visit to the chemist or pharmacy. Many dietitians and nutritionists are trained to create meal plans, not to consider not eating as an option. Hence, we've got to do this on our own. It can be a little difficult at first when we're used to 3 portions a day, but a gradual plan helps. I started with 12-12 for a month, then moved to 10-14, which is 10 hours eating, 14 hours fasting for another month, and then was at 8-16 for a couple of years. Over the last few months, though, I've added a cappuccino in the morning and a small cut fruit platter between 11 and 12 in the morning with controlled portions even during the eating window to try and achieve an average calorie intake of around 1800 per day. So, what have we looked at so far in our Matka series that we can incorporate into our daily lives, avoiding fad diets and short term solutions to live long and healthy? The first is moving in any form. The second is sensible eating, which means eating as few ultra processed food portions per day as possible, and at least 4 to 5 portions of vegetables and fruits per day, with some form of intermittent fasting, preferably some type of time restricted eating. Also, let's not confuse weight loss and being healthy. While achieving ideal weight for age, height, and sex is an important part of being healthy, living longer and better involves a lot more. We don't have to look like models or have 2 and 4 pack abs to live long and healthy. And all of those who are ripped are not necessarily healthy. So, to an extent, we do need to dichotomize and differentiate between just losing weight and aiming to live longer and healthy. Coming back to the giants, and I'm Jain too. So, do Jains who practice Choviyar live longer and healthier? That's an important question. Now, while Jains do live longer than other communities in India, that could be due to wealth, better education, and improved access to healthcare, among other confounding reasons. So, a study comparing Jains who practice daily Choviyar versus those Jains who don't may actually tell us if those for whom Choviyar time restricted eating is a way of life are healthier and or live longer than those who eat all day. And this is an observational study just waiting to happen. It's like a low hanging fruit if anyone is up for that. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Do leave comments at the site if you'd like to receive this in your inbox each time I put a post, which is typically Sunday morning India time. Do subscribe as well. And have a good Sunday and a good week. Thank you.